Man, it's like a crazy exciting, crazy stressful for the launch of the movie today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you making the time to talk about it because it's a very, very special movie, and you just must be so proud right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. With everyone involved, over 400 people, just proud that everyone just they were all on their A game, and a majority of them, for us, the majority of them were not people of faith, but they loved the art style, and the biggest thing is they saw the passion of why we wanted to tell the story we did, and I think that's what really pushed them. So no, I'm very excited, very proud of the movie.
Yeah. Well, maybe you got some people thinking about their faith, right?
Actually, during the production, there'd be times where production would go crazy. We're trying to figure stuff out, and I'm on a Zoom call with like 60 people, and you know, and I would say I don't have the answer. And Tom Bancroft, the other director, we'd be both like, I would kind of like we really need to think this through, and I would always ask like, hey, would it be cool if I prayed? And no one turned it down, and I would pray very specific to that moment and things did happen and for them, whether for them it was an intervention of God or whether it was like, oh, they got they thought of ideas or whatever it happened, it was because it started from a prayer. So many of them would ask questions afterwards privately. They would reach out to me or Tom, and so it did start opening up dialogue, and I think for Tom and I, we changed the frozen perception of what they think are Christians. Their kind of taking of Christians is we know what Christians don't like because that's all what we hear about. And it was a different perception when they said that. So it made us really think, oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
what do we like? What do, and so that really opened up dialogue that way.
And how did you and Tom split up the duties? Because there's so much to do and so many moving parts, and it's cool to see like how many great movies he's worked on too, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if I was on the film for just about almost a year and 3 months. It was just me solo as a director. And at that point, I'm working with all the character designers on all this group, then dealing with layout, all the stuff, and it it hit me like, oh, now I know why Disney or Pixar features have two directors.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Tom, and he has Pencilish at that time. I mean, they're not a gun for hire. They're creating their own IP in that. But because we have a great friendship, we've worked together for 18 years, and he put that aside of no, I would love to be part of it. And so in the very beginning, we worked through everything together. So we were refining character. So we were all on the same calls. It got toward the last third of the film where we had to divide and conquer because now I was moving. My big thing is I love music or orchestra. I was working with the composer, I was working with the visual effects team and that stuff, and him and his brother Tony, because Tony was our co-head of story, but also really instrumental at being the animation director. They would start working on key poses with the studio and that, and so we divide and conquered for that last part just to keep us where our expertise was. Mine's definitely visual effects, cinematography side of stuff, color and all that. His was getting into the posing and animation, and so we did split up that way. And also because this is an independent film, it's a $20 million budget, but we had to be really smart with that. Tom rolled off before we went into final post, and that to me that's weird. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have my my co-director with me, and but it was one of those ones that you have to do what you have to do, and so there was a stuff where I think we've trusted each other, where he trusted me that I was going to carry it through to that final part there. So, but his expertise of coming from Disney, Tony's expertise from Disney, oh man, it paid off in what you see in our movie.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, that's actually reaching out is probably what my co-host Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, caught the Hail Mary, would call a Hail Mary moment, right? Where you just kind of had to launch it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that on the show. We have those Hail Mary moments in our life. Would you say that that is kind of that this has kind of been a big one in your life, or you probably had several?
Oh, for as in, give me an example what you mean
Oh,
by that.
sure. Well, just meaning like a time in your life or career where your back was up against the wall and you just thought, I don't know what to do here, and you
Oh,
just
oh,
Hail Mary and throw it.
yeah, no.
Or
So
catch
where
it.
I've definitely been in this situation, and especially in this film, while we're working on this production and going through all that, then there's also personal life that takes place, and there's a moment where, you know, my son, we didn't know what happened. My wife and I was playing with him. He was 3 at that time, and he kind of ducked down. He never got back up, and we went over to him. He was completely blue. His lips were dark blue. He wasn't breathing. We didn't know CPR. I know that's horrible to say, and so we're calling 911. They're training us to do CPR, and by that time paramedics came. They got him through, and we started this journey of finding out what happened to our boy. So we were going to Mayo Clinic in Rochester. We'd be there like for 5 days. He's going through testing. I'm in the lobby doing all the Zoom calls with the team in Ireland, with the team in Pifio was our pre-production studio, development of characters and all that stuff. And so doing all those things, and this is all going on, and I would just talk, I would just talk with God. Like, I do feel like you've led me all my life to this moment. I feel like I'm called for this film, but even the top experts in this country does not know what's going on with our boy. And so what they did find out, he had a seizure called a
Mm.
non-responsive seizure where it didn't give any type of indication, but his brain was telling it to shut off the respiratory system. And so the concern was if that happened again, or if we weren't around and it happened. So there's that moment when Tom had a heart to heart with me and his brother Tony, and they all talked with me like, hey, John, we got the movie this far. We know what we need to do. If you need to step away, we got you. And that stuff. And I could trust him with that. But the thing was, is I had been praying about it, I've been talking about it, and it was that moment of here I am carrying the weight of this movie. And if I'm supposed to make a movie to tell people that they can trust Jesus, that they can trust this God, then for me not to do that, I would be a hypocrite to that. And so I trusted God. That was my fleece out to him. And to this day, our boy, he's over 5 years old, never had another event. We don't have to carry rescue shots, but that was that moment for me of trusting God. And it's always we can say we trust God, but there's that almost lip service moment. I trust, but when it's the fact of your child and that your child could die, and they're telling you he will die if you don't get to him, if he has this event, and uh and so yeah, that was my back up against the wall, but I didn't have to throw the Hail Mary. I just know who to just ask help for, and that's what I
Wow.
did. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, and I think it kind of ties into the movie in a sense too. I think there's so much that people will discuss after this. So what are you hoping that people will think about or take away or pray about after seeing this?
Uh, I would hope it for many when they watch this relationship with John and Jesus, when they see it develop, and you actually see this boy who eventually becomes his apostle, his follower, there becomes such a strong friendship, and then you can see the love between them to that friendship that I hope the audience, if they're not believers and this is their first time experience this story, they start to fall in love with Jesus the way they saw this character. And they may not understand everything about Jesus, but maybe that's that opportunity for that seed to be planted. And I'll just kind of give you a quick backstory so that really helped me in my career. Is like, I was in 1973. My mom, dad, my brother, and I, we watched the Charlie Brown Christmas special, and so I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had ever heard the word God. It was the
Mm.
first time I'd ever heard the word Savior. And I asked my mom and dad, what is that? What is they talking about when Linus is explaining the true meaning of Christmas? And my mom and dad didn't have an answer. And 20 years later, through my own life and moved out doing my things is I've come across and found out who this Jesus is. Now I know what a savior is. I know God and I have this relationship, and it was years, then fast forward even years later, the very people I went to that asked the question, now I'm answering it for them, and they accept Christ. And that stuff. And so for me, I really hope that this is that moment for many that a seed is planted. Tom and I's job was to tell a story about the life of Jesus in the most simplistic way, in an engaging and an endearing way, in going through the eyes of the youngest disciple. And, and it really is because that helped us keep the story smaller. So we knew through John, these are the key moments in John's Gospels, and that helped us hone in the story because we wanted to keep it simple for people to follow, but also entertaining and engaging. And so I hope it's a seed planted, and I hope
Mhm.
that it doesn't take a child 20 years later to kind of figure that out. I hope our movie concludes it for them to make, start to have that talk. I hope kids start to ask stuff to parents, their parents and that. And so really just a hope they fall in love with Jesus and want to know more about him because they saw what he did in the film. Now, what does that mean in my life? And I hope that happens.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you probably will inspire some little filmmakers as well, too. So what kind
Uh,
of advice would you give to those that want to follow in your footsteps and tell great stories?
Man, they are the perfect time, and I know everyone's hear this now because we're in the age of YouTube and all this stuff. They're in the perfect time to be content creators. Use your iPhone, use your parents' iPhone if you don't have one, but just start telling short stories, and don't give up. And for me, it started back way back in like 1973, and I started making movies with home Super 8 cameras that my dad helped me with, and that. But my whole dream, my whole life is I wanted to be a director. And, I just started making little movies at that time and kind of got into a career of it. But it took 50 years. Like today, September 5th is the release of our movie. It's also my birthday. And
Oh, happy
I
birthday.
I was 7 years old when my dad helped me make my first short animated stop motion animation. And I always knew I wanted to be a director, but it was a 50-year journey. And
Yeah.
so, but I would just say, just start making short stories. And even if you don't have a camera, do little comic strips. Write your stories, but keep them short because if you make them too big in your head, you're never going to get it done. Always just do little shorts. Just keep it small and simple, and then you'll get better and better and all that. But the biggest thing is if it's a desire you have in your heart, I
Mhm.
truly believe this uh, that is planted by God, and He is our ultimate creator. And I think if He's giving you the desire to write, or gives a desire to animate, or to be a director, and that's something He's put there. And the hardest thing is wait on. You got to do the work, but also trust in Him and His timing. And don't try to do things quicker, faster. Just, work hard at it, but trust in him. And I think that's why my journey became 50 years. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, just man, they're in the perfect time of creating content.
Yeah, I love that. And so what do you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on the right path always? Because this journey is a hard one, but you've done so well to come through it and today's release day.
I've learned throughout my career, finding that balance of first keeping it my relationship with God and making sure my wife and my son, um, they they don't fall second to what I'm doing, and just finding that balance and keeping that balance. And I have close friends with me who keep me they're accountable. We keep accountability because this is an industry you can easily get swallowed up in. And even as a being I work for Salvation Poem Project is it's a media company, but it's a faith-based. We are a ministry, and sometimes you can get so caught up in ministry that you forget about everything else. And so keeping my priorities is what's kept me in check, with keeping God first in my life, my wife, my son. And this is part of that after that. And so just keeping that balance. But for me, it took a long time to get to this place because, I was married previously, 25 years at that point, and, I got so caught up with all of it that I lost a lot, and that's why I'm just keeping that balance. I
Yeah,
know
that's great.
I'm probably telling you too much
No,
information.
no,
So
no. This is great.
uh,
It's wonderful. And hey, I want to learn a little bit more about the ministry before we let you go too, because that's, very important.
yeah, so Salvation Poem Project, what it started out and if you look it up online, the Salvation Poem is a very simple 6 line song. And really Matt McPherson and Sharon McPherson is the ones who wrote it. It was kind of the thing of keeping the gospel super simple, like Mary had a little lamb, twinkle,
Yeah.
twinkle, little star. These are things that you remember. So keeping it very simple. And it was being used around the world for Superbook, the series I produced on. At the end of every episode, it has the Salvation Poem song, and it highlights the key moments in that episode. And that's how it all started, was from the song. And now, coming here, what we really want to focus is we want to create the highest quality content like this film. We have a game coming on 2027 called Clayfire, and we have other stuff in development. We just want to do the highest quality content. We'll release it mainstream first, like this film. We're doing this huge theatrical release, and that's why we really want people to see in the theaters, because what the profits that's generated from this comes back into the Salvation Poem Project, and it literally will go into translations for Light of the World, development of other stuff. So it's solely focused on that, because the goal is like after we do Light of the World, the whole worldwide theatrical run in 2025,
Mhm.
2026, we will give this away to all ministries for free. And when you do that, when you give something away, no strings attached, for free, and if they can't get it translated, we will help them get it translated. We will do all those things. It costs a lot of money to do things free, and that's why we want to always release something theatrically first, let that come in there, play, and then that. But our goal is to put no paywall, let no culture, no language be a barrier why no one should see Light of the World.
Mhm. Absolutely. That's beautifully said. Well, thank you so much for doing everything that you do. We're going to tell everybody to go to the theater this weekend and support this. I appreciate the wonderful answers, and it's great to connect with you, and
Oh
look forward
yeah.
to talking to you again soon and following along with the journey.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you for right now. Everyone's saying, "Man, we're grateful that you're just doing this last minute." No, I'm grateful that anyone wants to talk about our movie. So
Oh,
thank you
that's
so
great.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. I appreciate you. Okay,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
you do.